Hello crafters, this is Yana Smakula. Welcome back to my channel. Glad to have you here. Today I have several cards to share featuring the new must-have die set from Spellbinders. Well, actually 2 new die sets. I have a huge collection of dies in my stash, and I never think I would need any more dies, but somehow the companies managed to come up with such clever and such unique designs, and not just die designs, stamp designs, stencil designs. I feel I need them in my craft room as I know I'll be using them a lot. One of those sets, one of those new must-have die sets, is the Spellbinders Large Die of the Month for February 2021. I almost said 2020, I'm still thinking 2020. This set is called Birthday Wishes for Everyone, and this basically is a set of large numbers in a beautiful font. And they are the numbers. They're so big. The numbers are just under 2 inches tall. They're missing about 1/8 of an inch to be full 2 inches tall. Now, there are 14 dies in this set, so you have the numbers from 1 to 9 or from 0 to 9. Now the die that cuts the number 9 also works as the number 6. Here I've cut them from different colors of cardstock as well as from gold mirror cardstock, and you can see how gorgeous they look regardless out of what paper you cut them from. There's also a die that cuts the word happy, and while the die is one piece, you have individual letters, so you can decide on the spacing for these letters. You can have them closer together, you can have them overlap each other, or you can have them spaced a little bit further apart. And I love this font. While it's very dainty and detailed, you also have larger spots, larger sections, so that you can hide foam adhesive behind it and pop your die cuts up. Now, included in this set, you also have 2 options to add different letters at the end of the number. So, for example, if you wanted to say happy first, so you have 2 options for that in 2 different fonts. One is more scripty and the other one is more masculine. Then, of course, you have happy second also in 2 options, happy third in 2 options, and of course, happy fourth, and then 5th, 6th, and so on. So that's all the numbers included in this die set. Very versatile. The font is fantastic. The size is perfect for A2 cards or for slimline cards. So you have lots of fun things you can create with this set. Oh, I did forget to mention one little die. I was actually confused by this die at first. I didn't know what it was for. But it's actually a very clever separator or divider. So for example, if you wanted to spell a date, you can use that die cut. You can have it diagonally like this, or you can also place it horizontally, and I'll show you that in a minute, to have a date spelled on your card. For example, if you're making a save the date card, or if you want to include a full date on your project. You can also use these, by the way, on scrapbook projects, scrapbook layouts, or even in albums. I think these numbers would be really cool to use in a December daily album just because they're so fun and big. My card idea for today is to use some sort of geometric paper, and I have this sheet of paper from my stash. I believe it's from one of the Spellbinders card kits. I'm not sure which one, but I've had this paper for a very long time, and I'm going to use that to make a simple birthday card. So I'm first going to trim this paper to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, as that will make the front of my card. I wasn't sure at first if I wanted that chevron centered, but then I decided I wanted it a little bit offset so that the card is not totally symmetrical. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Now, because this paper is rather thin, it's just patterned paper, I want to back it with another piece of cardstock just so that I have more stability to this panel. And I already have a panel of white cardstock, and I've added a sheet of sticky paper. This is a liner sheet. I'm using a liner sheet from Fun Stamper's Journey. It's basically a double-sided adhesive sheet. And I'm using that to adhere this paper, this pattern paper, onto my cardstock. Now, why do I want to do that? I want to die cut letters into this panel, and I then want to use those die cut letters on a card. I want to pop them up with foam adhesive, but because the pattern paper is so thin, I need to add some sort of stability. I need to make it thicker so that the numbers, once die cut, look a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and position the numbers. I went to die cut 25, and it doesn't really matter at this point where exactly I position them on the panel, because the panel itself, it will not make the front of my card. I mean, it will make the front of my card partially, but I will have it covered by another panel. So I positioned my letters or my numbers in such a way so they overlapped a little bit of that gold, as I wanted to have a little bit of that gold on my die cuts. And look how beautiful that turns out. The letters, why do I keep saying the letters? The numbers are a little bit thicker. There's more stability to them. They're dainty and detailed, but I can still add foam adhesive behind them, and there won't be any sagging. They will be nice and durable on my card. So here I have the numbers 25. I also have my panel left over, and I'm actually going to use that panel for the front of my card. My plan is to add another white cardstock panel on top of that. That particular panel is cut to 3 3/4 by 5 inches. So it's a 1/2 inch smaller on each side. And I'll just position the two numbers, 25th, and then I'll add the happy at the top. And that will basically make my card. What's awesome about this die set, this large die of the month, the number set, is that it makes it so easy to make a birthday card, or, well, any other kind of card if you want. The numbers are large enough to take center stage on your card, and you don't really need to add much more to it. Just use some pretty paper. I find that using some geometric paper from my stash works the best, just because, I don't know, it just works well. And I also find that if I'm using paper that has some sort of gold accent to it or metallic accent to it, that works really well as well. I adhered that leftover panel onto a card base that is an A2 card base, so it measures 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And now I have my white cardstock panel. I've temporarily adhered it onto a grid paper pad. That's because I want to adhere my numbers so that they are centered on that panel. And I'm using the grid on that paper pad to help me determine where the center is and position everything so that it's nice and centered. And like I said, I'm going to use foam adhesive to foam mount everything in place. I love how that adds, I don't know, it adds air. It makes it more pleasing to the eye, I guess. So I always like to add some sort of foam adhesive to my projects, as I really like how they look. So I'm just going to foam mount the numbers, and then I will foam mount the happy in the same way. And then I will foam mount the TH as well, so that it spells happy 25th. Now, we've been having quite a lot of snow lately, and it was so fun. We live near the park, and I was on my way to see my mom the other day, and I walked through the park, and we had a little bit of a snowstorm. I mean, not a snowstorm, a snow blizzard, I would say. And it was so nice to walk through all of that snow. I kind of missed that. We haven't had snow in a long time. In the past, when I was little especially, you would get lots of snow in the winters. But now with the climate change and everything, we've not been getting a lot of snow. And it was so fun to see all of that snow fall. And it was fun to see all the kids in the park, sledding and playing with the snow. I don't know, it just brought a lot of childhood memories back to me. Now, in case you're new to the Spellbinders and their clubs, the large die of the month is a membership. It's a subscription club available from the Spellbinders website only. So you won't be able to get this anywhere else. This particular subscription is $27.50 per month, and US shipping is included in the cost. Every month, there's a new die set delivered to your door, along with lots of inspiration from Spellbinders. And if you enjoy die cutting, you'll enjoy these kits, as the designs are always fresh and trendy. I don't share the projects with these kits every month here on my YouTube channel, but I do try and create fun cards using these products whenever I can find the time, or whenever I'm super inspired by the product, like with this numbers set. Okay, I have foam mounted the letters and the numbers, and now I'm using foam adhesive to adhere that panel onto the card. And that's basically it. That almost finishes my card. Now, I do want to add additional sentiment to this card, like a little sub-sentiment. And for this, I am using Simon Says stamp sentiment strips. I believe these are from the All Things Happy set, but I'm not entirely sure. Simon does have a lot of printed sentiment cards like these, and they're super helpful. I was actually trying to heat emboss a sentiment for this card, and I used black cardstock and white embossing powder, and I did heat emboss a sentiment. But you know what? When you compare the white heat emboss sentiment to this pre-printed sentiment, the pre-printed sentiment looks a lot better, looks a lot cleaner. So I decided I'm just going to pick a pre-printed sentiment. I'm going to die cut it using a banner die. I just have this thin strip die, and I'll use that for my card instead of heat embossing. Of course, you can heat emboss a sentiment if you want, especially if you don't have one that is printed like this. But I don't know, I really like these pre-printed sentiments, and I actually really like the sentiments on these. So for this card, I picked one that says blow out your candles, but for the other cards I have for you today, I picked one that says older and wiser, well, older anyway. And then for the last card, I picked one that says love you so. And you can add whatever sub-sentiment you want. There are lots of different options, or you can leave it blank and just maybe add a sentiment on the inside of the card. Now, to finish this card, I'm also going to embellish it using a couple of clear droplets from Pretty Pink Posh. I love using these lately. They add so much fun and see-through details to the card. It's like you have the embellishments, but they're not really there because they're clear and see-through. I'm using the new glue that Spellbinders now carries. This is the Barely Arts glue, and I love this glue. It's a little bit runnier compared to the Spellbinders or the Fun Stampers Journey previous glue. I think it's called the Journey glue, but it has a fine tip applicator, and you can use it to add just a little dot of glue and adhere really fine, really detailed pieces onto your card. Now, the second die set that I feel is a must-have from Spellbinders is the Color Block Slices die. It's this die right here that I'm holding in my hand. And this is the perfect die to create colorful geometric backgrounds for your cards. When I look at this die, I actually think of Laura Besson and all of the beautiful, colorful rainbow backgrounds that she's been making. Now, you can use this to make sort of like a fan design, like a half circle, or you can use just one of the slices and alternate them to have a horizontal or a vertical background, whichever one you prefer. I have been using lots of colored cardstock from my stash. I actually sat one day and I just pulled a sheet of each color that I own and I die cut a bunch of slices. So I basically die cut each colored cardstock sheet just so that I could have a bunch of different slices cut from a bunch of different colors, and so that I could just go ahead and play and create colorful backgrounds. And I'm telling you guys, this is so much fun and so easy too. Like you have these options. You just, all you need to do is basically figure out the order in which you want the slices, the colors arranged, and you instantly have a fabulous background. So let me show you how easy it is to make a background. I've talked to my friend at Spellbinders who designed this die set, and she says it's always best to start in the middle and do one half of the background, trim it, and then do the other half of the background. Now, I didn't do it exactly that way as I wanted to experiment, but that's basically the better way to do it if you wanted to make it a quicker and easier process. So I went ahead and I added double-sided adhesive tape to my card base. Now, I don't want to go ahead and adhere the slices right away onto the card base. What I want to do first is I want to plan the design ahead of time. So what I'm doing now is I'm using another panel of cardstock. It happens to be craft. I'm not actually going to use that craft panel. It's just there on my background for size purposes. And what I'm doing is I'm arranging different slices. I'm actually alternating the sizes of, so you have two sizes. There's a bigger slice and a smaller slice. So I'm alternating the size of the slices, and I'm trying to go in a somewhat rainbow order, but not really. I'm basically just adding different shades of pink and different shades of yellow. Now that I've picked the colors that I want, I'm also using the new Spellbinders yellow tape. This is another fun product that I think it's a must-have, but I'll talk more about it some other time. So basically using this tape to temporarily secure the pieces in place. You can also use press and seal or any other product that you might have to temporarily connect the pieces. And now that I have them connected, I'm going to flip this whole fan to the back. I'm going to remove the backing paper from my double-sided tape from my card base, and I'm just going to go ahead and adhere the card base onto this fan, just like that. Now I just need to use my scissors or my trimmer and trim the excess off. And it's very easy. You just trim, rotate the panel, and you have yourself an awesome, colorful background. I'm telling you guys, I did not think it could be this easy to make these backgrounds, but it really is an awesome, easy process with this new die. This die will be available on the Spellbinders website on February 10th. Right now it's in the coming soon section, but it is now available at Simon Says Stamp or other retailers if you want to grab it now. Now to finish this card, I'm going to go ahead and basically use the same concept, but I'll just do this a little bit differently. Instead of using the positive letters, why do I keep saying letters? Instead of using the positive numbers, I'm going to die cut the numbers into the panel so that I can reveal the background, and I'll just use the negative openings to have my numbers show on the card. So I went ahead and I die cut 47, and you can see how that looks. You have a lot of open space, and it reveals the colorful color block background beautifully. I'm going to add double-sided foam tape to the back of my panel and then adhere this panel onto my colorful background. Now the panel that I'm working with, the white panel, is cut to 3 3/4 to 5 inches. So it's a 1/2 inch smaller than my card front. Now I also added that inner part of the number 4. I foam mounted the words that say happy, and then I added a sub-sentiment die cut from those sentiment strips from Simon. And this sub-sentiment says, older and wiser, well, older anyways. I love that sub-sentiment. And I'm also going to adhere little clear droplets to embellish this card. Now I have one last card to show you. Again, using this color block slices die, I went ahead and I picked the colors that I want to use for this particular card. And this time I also added 2 slices cut from gold because I want to have a little bit of gold on my background. And that's the beauty of this. If you like to have gold accents on your cards, and if you like bold geometric backgrounds like this, you can go ahead and die cut a couple of slices out of gold, and boom, you have yourself a pretty background with some gold or metallic, maybe some other color metallic inserts. So I'm just going to adhere all of my slices, and I quite like how this looks. And then for the corners, I'm going to add another piece of gold cardstock just so that I have a little bit more gold in the background. And then once that is done, go ahead and use my scissors to trim the excess, and then use the paper trimmer to trim the rest of that paper off the panel. Now I do save all of those little leftovers. I'm not throwing any of them away, as well, these are pretty big chunks of cardstock, and that paper can be reused for something else. In fact, I'll reuse some of the smaller pieces, some of the smaller pink pieces, to die cut little flowers for this card. So I went ahead and I adhered this background onto an A2 white side folding card base. I love the little gold additions to this background. I also foam mounted a white cardstock panel. Again, this is 3 3/4 by 5 inches, and I have already die cut the numbers. And for this card, I want to have a date on my card. So this says 2501. In the United States, you guys spell the date a little bit differently than we do in Europe. So in US, you would have the month, the day, and the year. In Europe, we do the day, the month, the year. And then in China, they do that completely differently. They have the year, the month, and the day. So talk about confusing. When I see a date on international documents, I always pay attention to where that document is coming from so that I read the date correctly. So on this card, because this is a card for my hubby, I have the day first, and then the other number is the month. So this is basically January 25th, as this is the day when we met, and this is the card that I'm making for us to celebrate our anniversary. I actually made this card in mid-January, so by the time this video is live, I have already given him the card, and we have already celebrated our little anniversary. Anyhow, so I went ahead and I foam mounted the numbers onto the card. I also used glue to adhere that little divider. And you can see now on this card, you can see how that divider is very handy to have because it adds a really nice thin line to your card. I think it's a nice design element. Now to finish this card, I felt like I needed to die cut some flowers. I really wanted to add additional flowers, although you don't have to. This already looks pretty nice as is. I did add some clear droplets, but I also wanted to add some flowers. So I used some of my previous Spellbinders dies. I also used my stylus tip from Spellbinders. I added a little bit of dimension to the flowers by shaping the flowers with a stylus tip. And I just use a pencil eraser as a surface on which I shape the flowers. So I did that. I die cut a couple of flowers. I have one cut from hot pink, one from sort of like a medium pink, and one from light pink. And then I die cut a couple of leaves from 2 shades of green cardstock. Now I'm not specifying what color cardstock I used because honestly, I used a lot of cardstock to make these cards. Most of this cardstock is from Simon Says Stamp and Spellbinders. Some of it might be from Hero Arts. If you want to recreate a card like this, I would just encourage to use whatever cardstock you have in your stash. So these are the 3 cards I have for you today, created with the Spellbinders large die of the month for February 2021 and the new, I keep forgetting the name of that set, Color Block Slices die. So that's it for me for today. Thanks for joining me. Love you guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.